All right, everyone. It looks like it just hit 6 o'clock. So we are going to go ahead and get started. First, wanted to introduce myself. My name is Ashley Brunier, and I am with WM of Orange County. Just to state the obvious, we would have loved to meet you in person tonight, but due to the state of the current pandemic, this was the safest option for us to meet. Hopefully everyone else is staying healthy and safe during this recent surge, but if you are impacted, hopefully you are able to stay home and to get better very soon. With that being said, though, I understand that this platform is not the best for interacting. So the real goal of tonight's presentation is to make sure that we are sharing the information about this new Manure program and to ensure that you have our direct contact information to our local team so that we can address each of your unique needs. So at the end of the presentation, we will have a Q&A. However, it is a chat. So again, for those questions that we maybe need a little bit more in depth or we need to work with you on a more personal level, we will be providing our direct contact information, our email and phone number. So in case we aren't able to answer your questions fully or get to everyone tonight, you have an avenue to reach us after this presentation. But again, we'll open up the Q&A at the end. I'll let everyone know, and we will address as many questions and concerns as much as possible. Without further ado, we will go ahead and get started. So tonight we're going to be going over the new Manure program that's primarily in our unincorporated areas of Orange Park Acres, North Tustin, Wagon Wheel, and the Canyons. Now, as many of you know, we received information about a new state law that went into effect on January 1st, 2022. This law was titled Senate Bill 1383, and it is massive. It is a huge change in the waste and recycling industry, and it's impacting all residents and businesses throughout the state of California. Essentially, this law is requiring cities and counties to implement a mandatory organic waste recycling program for all residents and businesses. And really, what is organic waste? So organic waste is anything that is food waste, green waste, and it also now includes manure. So this means for our manure generating customers that all manure must be placed in a separate container for manure only and recycled and processed separately. Now, this is part of California's statewide goal to reduce organic waste in the landfill by 75%. Organic waste is known to emit greenhouse gases that contribute to global climate change. As we know, California is very environmentally forward, and this law is to help with their climate action mitigation plan. So CalRecycle is the state agency that is overseeing this law and the implementation. We do have CalRecycle's webpage linked on the screen in case anyone is interested in diving into Senate Bill 1383, seeing the formal text, any educational materials or timelines that they have posted. And again, we can share this information at the end if anyone is interested. But to state the main obvious is, how does this affect our manure customers? Because of this new law, the County of Orange with Waste Management is formalizing a clean manure recycling program. And with this, there is an increase in cost that obviously is very difficult, and we know this is a huge change for all residents. The main reason for this change in cost is that, again, all manure now must be recycled at a specialized facility, and this is at now a much higher cost than ever before. Initially, many of you might remember, we began this manure program as a pilot program a few years back. Unfortunately, as we tested it out, we saw high levels of contamination and trash being mixed in with the manure, and this material would be taken to the facility, and unfortunately the facility was not able to accept the loads we were dropping off and would force us to put the material back in the truck and take it to the landfill. So because of the contamination, we were landfilling some of this material that wasn't able to be recycled, but moving forward, all of this material now has to be recycled. We have to get the contamination out of the loads in order to recycle it. and henceforth there's this increase in costs. Now, unfortunately, we love California. It's a beautiful state to live in, and this is part of the expenses that we are now seeing, and manure recycling is now going to be added to that expense. To help mitigate some of these costs, we do have all invoices with manure services being billed monthly instead of quarterly. I know some of our cart customers were on a quarterly cycle. In addition, we have some of the cart costs that are being pushed back to March 1st. Our cart customers, we do realize, have the highest rate impacts, so we're hoping by pushing it back and working with the state to make sure that this program is still implemented, this will allow at least enough time to work directly with our team, so if we can help right size you, identify any carts that maybe not be necessary for your property, maybe convert you to bin service if that's more cost effective for you. We really want to be able to work with you directly to help mitigate any cost impacts that we can. Now, I did want to point out there are other manure services that are related. Some of our bin customers do have special areas on site where they like to keep their bin, and sometimes our standard truck is not able to access that location. Maybe the road is too narrow, or maybe the truck is too heavy for that road if it's a private road. And so sometimes we do have to send a special truck, a smaller truck, to pull that bin out, take it to a safe location to service. And we typically call this stinger service or special truck service. And there are additional charges for having 2 trucks come to the property to service the bin. But again, if you have any questions about that special service, you can reach out to our team and we can help identify if that is really necessary or if there's an alternative option for your property. So I did want to go over some of the acceptable materials and contamination. We've been talking a lot about clean manure, right? And what is clean manure? Clean manure is really just manure. It's, anything that's manure related, like wood shavings, staple bedding, and of course the manure itself. So this is really the only material that should be placed inside the bin. But as we've mentioned over the past few years, we've seen high levels of contamination. We know many of you are probably recycling right and doing the best you can, but unfortunately we have a lot of members in the community where we're seeing lots of trash, plastic, bags, metal, all sorts of things that are not related to manure that should not be placed in the container. Again, moving forward, this contamination cannot be placed in the container, and if it is, your container might not be able to be serviced. So, ideally, we don't place that in the container, but if for some reason we do identify an issue, we do provide notifications. So please ensure your preferred contact information is up to date on your online WM.com account, or we also have a mobile application that can be downloaded on your phone called MyWM, and you can set your contact preferences there as well. Additionally, we wanted to go over some of the container options that are standard in this new program. For cart service, we do provide up to 5 manure carts that can be serviced up to 1 time per week. Now, bin service is typically required for any additional volume beyond the 5 carts, just to the level of volume that's required. In addition, the maximum size would be 65 gallons due to weight constraints. Additionally, we also have bin service options, and the maximum size would be 2 cubic yard bins, and these can be serviced multiple times per week. Now, again, please note some properties do require a special truck to service the bin, and again, if you have questions about that, you can reach out to our team and we can help you. But the maximum size would be 2 cubic yards. Now, I do get a lot of questions as to why are these options different than what I have now. We do know that some customers have 96-gallon carts, or some customers have 3-yard bins, which are larger than what's being displayed here. In reality, we've had a lot of challenges with overfilling. Manure is a heavy material, it's a dense material, and in order for it to be safely serviced, the intent was not to have it filled up all the way to the top. But unfortunately, like I said, we've had issues with overfilling, and which has been posing either safety issues for our driver and also causing issues for the service equipment to service. If the material is too heavy, it really does put strain on the service equipment, and sometimes we aren't even able to pick it up or move it. And then we have to send another special truck. So the standard sizes moving forward are the 65 gallons and the 2 cubic yard dumpsters. However, if you have a container that's currently outside of these options, there's nothing you need to do now. We may exchange it subject to availability, but as you know, with these COVID-19 impacts, unfortunately, WM has not been immune to the supply chain delays, and we are having some container shortages. So for the time being, please continue to use your current container, and we can help exchange that upon availability. And another question we frequently get is if there are any other service options available. So manure recycling is now considered, or manure is now considered an organic material under this new law, and it does require that it has to be recycled. So this is a mandatory service if you generate this material type. Really opting out of the program would be subject to county approval, but as mentioned, there is an ordinance in place that all organic material must be recycled, in addition to the state law that is requiring for all organic material to be recycled. Now, of course, those who do not generate manure would not need to subscribe to this program. If you believe you have been subscribed to this program in error, we encourage you to please contact OC Recycling at WM.com, and we can help investigate your account and make sure that your account is set up correctly for the services that you have. Now, what do we need to do now? And really, for everyone, there is no action required. All existing manure customers have already been automatically enrolled in the Clean Manure Recycling Program. So the main goal is to really review your current service levels that you have on your property now and determine if the containers you have are really what you need. We do have some customers that we know are using some carts as maybe a wheelbarrow or a muck bucket, but they don't really need it for service. So maybe it's time to remove unnecessary containers and we can replace it with another container that you don't have to pay a monthly cost for. So WM is here to help. We do want to make sure we work with you individually. We recognize that everyone has unique needs. Every property has, especially in the canyons, we know there's very hard to service areas. So there isn't a one size fits all recommendation. We know this isn't easy, but this is our phone number and our email to our direct team. This is not a call center. This is our local team here in Orange County that can provide you customized service level recommendations, go over your account information, and make recommendations that we think can help mitigate your cost impacts as much as possible. Now, for copies of any educational materials and flyers that have gone out, you can always visit home.wm.com/Orange County. Additionally, we'll end up posting this presentation to this webpage as well as some of our frequently asked questions from tonight. Now, I just wanted to end this presentation, of course, thanking you all for joining. I know, again, the setting was a little bit different. It wasn't ideal for this type of meeting, but we did want to have everyone have a chance to ask their questions. Again, we understand that you are unique and you have specific questions. We're going to do our best to answer as many as we possibly can. So if we do not get to your question, please reach out to our team. I've left our contact information on the screen, so you can take a screenshot or write it down. Additionally, this contact information was on the letter that went out. But yeah, to participate in the Q&A, we will go ahead and begin to open up. So you can see a chat box on the top corner of your screen. And go ahead and enter in your questions, and we'll go ahead and answer them as they come in. But thank you, everyone. I'll give it about a minute before we start. Okay, so we have some of our first questions coming in, and I'll go ahead and publish them. Again, for any questions that maybe need more specific outreach, we will probably reach out to you directly so that you have our direct contact information and we can continue the conversation outside of tonight. But first question is, how do I get bins for trash recycle in addition to your manure? So this is a great question, and we see a lot of customers out there that only have the manure, the commercial manure bin. But it is mandatory that we also have the trash recycling and green waste especially if you're a resident. We want to make sure you have your residential account. So please contact ocrecycling@wm.com or the phone number on your screen, and we will help with setting that up. Our recycling coordinator just made an announcement. Her name's Dwanda Rolls. Many of you might have already worked with her directly already, and she can help, again, look at your service levels. If you don't have a residential account, set you up, right-size you for any service needs that you have. So again, that's our direct contact information. It goes to all of us here on the team. I will also spell my name because I know some people were asking for how to spell my name. And then I will also retype the email chain, which goes directly to all of us here. So thank you for that. Okay, so I do see another question about the 3-yard bin. So for example, there has been, like I mentioned, some issues with either inventory delays. What do you do if you're trying to either go get a 2-yard bin, or maybe there's a container delay on a container that you need? We do have other containers available, so I do know if someone from the team can message Sherry privately, we can go ahead and help her with getting the container she needs for your residential account. But in regard to the 2-yard bins, if you're a cart customer and you're trying to convert to a 2-yard bin, and there is, you're currently waiting because of inventory delays, I just want to make it clear that we will be honoring the pricing. So if you're, you have 5 carts and you're trying to get down to a 2-yard bin, and you're worried that you're going to be charged the 102 times 5 for that service, as long as you're reaching out to ocrecycling@wm.com and this phone number, we can help catch that before the rate increase goes into effect for the cart customers, and we can help make sure that those rates are honored while you're waiting for your bin. Another question is, why are we being charged more since we are the ones that are, separating the manure? And this is an excellent question. So again, beforehand, we were picking up the manure, and for many customers, they were still separating it. We've had these containers out in the community for some years now, but the issue is the facility which we're taking it at. In the past, there was a high level of contamination. As I mentioned, we would bring it to the facility. The facility would not accept the load, have us put it back into the truck and dispose of it. Moving forward, we now have to take it to the facility, and the cost of processing organic material in general, and not just manure, food waste, green waste, any type of organic material has gone up tremendously. The state law is now requiring that this material gets recycled. So unfortunately, even if we wanted to still take it to the landfill and dispose of it and at a lower rate, we're not able to with the state law. The first thing first is we have to get the contamination out of the manure container in order to recycle it. If we continue to have high levels of contamination, the facility still is unable to accept it. However, we know this is taking time. This is a new program. So the main goal of this month is to spread the education, make sure we're stopping the trash being thrown into the manure. And then after that point, you might see non-service occurring on your container if there's still contamination. I do see another question about shavings. So shavings come in bags, and feed also comes in bag, and there is no. Oh, I see. Okay, sorry. If I rephrase the question. So basically anything that's, maybe you purchase bags of feed for your horses, and you have a manure bin, but what would you do with the trash, like for the bags? So we do offer, trash service and recycling service and green waste service, especially if you're a resident. You should have a residential account. So again, if you don't have one and currently the only container you have on your property is a manure bin, then you can reach out to OC Recycling at wm.com or the phone number on the screen, and we can make sure that we provide the containers that you need for your trash and your recycling and your landscaping waste. There are different, we have our residential rates for the area for our 3-cart service. Okay, let me make sure I'm reading. Another question is, what are the approximate rates of stinger service? We can certainly message you those rates, and I'm wondering if I can copy and paste those here on the screen. It might be a little difficult, but we do have rates from 1 to 6 times a week stinger service, and we'd be happy to go over that with you. So I'll make sure that the team reaches out to you specifically, again, at the OC Recycling at wm.com or 657 if that isn't able to be shared over this chat, but we'll certainly try. But yes, there is an additional cost, and if there's ever a question as to, well, can I place my bin somewhere else and maybe we don't need that stinger service, we are happy to have our team either go out and assess or bring a route manager to see if there's another location that's more suitable that does not require that service. Unfortunately, we do know, especially in the canyons, it is what it is. There's some hard to service roads and it's narrow, and no matter what, it just requires a special truck. But we will definitely work with you if you want to reach out to us and see if that's needed for your property. Another question is, why are other trash company prices lower than Waste Management? And there are a lot of reasons. I've seen some neighboring cities that help subsidize their rates, so there might be a reason that their rates are lower. There's also a geographical reason, especially when it comes to our canyon customers. It is definitely a harder to service area. Some of our unincorporated areas have some narrow roads, some service challenges, distance. There's a lot of factors that go into the rates. Again, these were approved with the county, previously, so these are unfortunately the cost that goes into this service. But there are varying factors as to why the rates are higher in this area. Okay, and I see another question about, let's see, a 2-yard bin. I just want to make sure I understand this question I'm reading. Another question is, okay, I'm sorry, I understand it. So, for example, why are the carts more expensive than the bin service? So for example, having 1 2-yard bin, even though that's more volume, having 5 carts would be much more expensive. And really it's came down to what the pricing structure was, but having more containers is typically more expensive than having one consolidated container in your area. In addition, we have a lot more manure bin customers than manure cart customers. And typically when you're pricing out any rates for any industry, the more density you have for a customer base, the lower the rate will be. So you will see that the manure bin rates, it might be a more economical solution, especially if you have a higher volume of carts. If you are a customer that maybe only has 1 or 2 carts, maybe switching to a bin doesn't make sense for you. But I would highly encourage, if you have over 2 carts, to really consider that bin, or to consider, do you need both of those carts? Because again, we do have a lot of customers that we interact with that say, well, I only use this cart to roll it around my property, to move the manure around, or to move other supply around. And there might be some alternative containers that we can use for that. And let me see. So why? So another question, and hopefully I'm understanding this, and if not, please correct me if clarify your question. But the question was, why is the cost going up so much for the manure bins if we put less in the bins now? And again, I might not be understanding this question fully, but if you're not putting as much manure into your containers, let's say maybe you were using the manure bin for trash and manure. So, now you're taking half of that trash out and you have way less manure. This is an opportunity that we could possibly right-size your services. So maybe a customer was having a manure bin serviced 3 times per week, but really half of that was trash. We might now be able to reduce that manure bin to 2 times or 1 time per week to help mitigate, because if you're taking the trash out and you're putting the trash in a different container, you're absolutely right. You're not going to be putting or using that container as much as you were. Now, of course, if you're a 1 time a week customer, there's really no more right sizing down that we can do. So again, it's really customized to each property. But the contact information on the screen, I want to emphasize this as much as possible. Of course, our customer service is great for any day-to-day needs you have, but anything regarding the manure program or changes to manure services on your account, we would highly ask that you please reach out to ocrecycling@wm.com or the phone number on the screen. Our team is local, we're here to help. We have a much deeper understanding of the program, and we can really dive into your account and look at your services and talk on the phone with you and make sure that you're comfortable with the changes that we're making or we're recommending. Another question is, what if I have a trash only dumpster? Do I need to do or change anything? So if you have trash only and you're not putting manure in it, then no, you do not need to change anything. Now, if you have a trash only dumpster and you're throwing manure in it, then you would be required to make sure you're taking the manure out, because part of this law, again, is you can't throw any organic material in the trash and no trash in the organic or manure material. So we would have to set you up with a separate container. But again, if you're only using your container for trash and not throwing manure in it, you can continue to throw trash in it, and that's completely okay. Now, if you are only using it for trash and you received a letter stating you have been identified as a manure customer, that would be a great time to please reach out to ocrecycling@wm.com or the phone number on the screen. It's possible you are identified in error, and we can just make sure that we correct your account and look into it for you. Another question was pointing out that this is a state mandate that we have to implement that's not just for manure, but also any organic material from grocery stores that also need to be recycled. And it affects a lot of customers that are also generating organic waste. And absolutely right, this is certainly, over the years, actually, grocery stores and restaurants have already been participating in an organics recycling law. Back in 2016, there was actually another state law that was implemented called Assembly Bill 1826, and this required restaurants, grocery stores, food generating businesses to recycle their food waste. So even before this year, they were actually already required to recycle their food waste, and every year it would get stricter and stricter, and the mandate would change a little bit more. So now with this new Senate bill, this is now, it changes the definition of organic material. So beforehand, manure was not considered organic material. This year, with this new law, or manure is now organic material and it has to be recycled. So that is another change that's occurred over the years. And if you go to a restaurant or a grocery store, you'll probably see a food waste recycling cart. There's still customers that we're still trying to implement, and they are just taking a little longer to get compliant, but there is a huge push, especially with the new law this year, that everyone has to be compliant as soon as possible. So we're trying to work with as many customers as we can, but if you have a business that, this is just a side note, if you have a business that generates food waste and you are interested in learning about that program, you can still contact us on the contact information on the screen. Okay, there's another question about, let's see, will waste management help educate people? My neighbors several years ago saw the same truck for trash and manure. And then let me see, hoping that we could educate more. Yes, so that is really the goal of this new program. Previously, it was a really informal pilot program that wasn't really heavily mandated or monitored, and moving forward with this new program, there is a huge expectation to change that. Again, there was a big issue with contamination in the manure. So unfortunately, because of certain routes being so highly contaminated, our manure truck wasn't even able to service that route. If it was having that much trash in it, we would have to take it to the landfill. Now the goal in the next month or two is to fix that, get that contamination out, because we really need to make sure that this material is being processed and taken to the facility. Otherwise, we'll have the same issue where we bring the material there and they say we can't take it because there's too contaminated, and then we have to take it back. So again, during this limbo time, we're trying to work to make sure we get that education out, to get the contamination out. But if it continues, that's where, you know, we may not be able to service you because we do have to recycle it. Another question was about the shavings, if you are able to put those in the container, and yes, even if it's you know, wood shavings or animal bedding, this is okay in the manure container. Can hay and manure also be in the same container? And yes, so any animal bedding or wood shavings. Another question was, what if, you know, okay, so this is like illegal dumping questions. What if random people come by and place trash in their bin? You know, we do empathize with this issue. Obviously, we are in the industry and we see illegal dumping all the time. Bulky items left on the side of the roads, you name it. And unfortunately, we know this also impacts manure customers, especially on Orange Park Boulevard. We've seen it so many times where people come by and throw something in the container. Now, of course, we are willing to work with you. We understand that there's only so much control you have. You know, keeping your container, you know, at a location where it's not accessible to the public is ideal, but it's not always an option. We do have other locking containers. Again, these come at additional charges, but for the most part, if you're having an issue with illegal dumping, it's best to report it to us. That way we can work with the county to see if anything code enforcement can be done. Again, it's an ongoing challenge, and we understand, especially if you're on a main road, it does inevitably occur. But the best thing we can do is, again, if we can keep the container, if it's an option for you to keep your containers away from the main road. If not, again, we can work with you directly on any illegal dumping matters you have. Okay, another question was, is the valet driver able to pick up the dumpster? Okay. Is the valet driver that is picking up the manure dumpsters also able to pick up a trash dumpster? And yes, so if you have multiple bins on your property, and let's say one's for trash and one's for manure, and you know, maybe you have a recycling bin, if it's still the same type of dumpster, it's just maybe a different color or a different label, the valet or the stinger driver can still service that, bring it out to the main road and service it safely. So again, if you have it maybe located by your barn or in a harder to service area where our standard truck can't access, we would bring in that special truck to pull the bin out to the main road. Another question was about being like grandfathered in the program. So again, unfortunately, this is not an option. This is a new state law, and it's a new program that we have to implement whether we want to or not. So with this new law and this new mandate, we do have to implement these new rates, but the best thing that we can do is, again, work with you individually. Again, there is not a one size fits all answer that I can provide everyone. You know, every manure property that I've visited has, you know, unique needs. So the best thing we can do is analyze what services you currently have and provide you the recommendations that we think could work for your property. Ultimately, of course, it's up to you if you want to change them or if you agree with our service recommendations, but the most that we can do is at least help with right sizing and identifying any containers that might not be necessary. I do see another question about, let's see, I'm sure. Again, I just want to make sure I'm reading it, so I'll double read it one more time. So another question was why the cart rates or the stinger rates are not included in the RFP or our proposal that was presented to the county. So our cart rates are actually under the organic rates. They are in the contract. However, our stinger rates, this is a special service that we provide to a limited amount of customers. So this is a negotiated rate that we have directly with customers. We have it as the same rate for all customers who ask for this, but this is not a standard service in our contract. This is a service that we offer as an enhancement to any customers who request or who may need it. Now, of course, if you do not need it or you do not want it and you are comfortable placing your bin in a location where it can be safely serviced, this is not a mandatory service. We just have to work to identify a location that it's safe to service and that it can be placed. Now, many customers like the convenience of placing their bin near their property, and maybe that's in an area where a standard truck can't service. So that's why this is an alternative service that's provided. Has WM looked into state support or rebates to help this transition and roll out? Really, unfortunately, this is an unfunded state mandate. We are rolling out this program in every city, and not just WM, right? The entire state of California is having an organics program being rolled out at a really quick pace as well. There was not a lot of time to put this program together and to get it implemented, and there are many customers still scrambling to get a program started. So unfortunately, there's not a lot of rebates or state support that could help with the funding of this transition, but there's certainly opportunities that we are exploring with the county for future facilities where there may be a lower cost. So I know with any type of state mandate or change, I always use solar panels as an example. They were really expensive in the beginning, and as over time they became more popular and more outlets became available, we hope that this cost could go down, but until that time, this is the current cost of the program, and we're hoping that more facilities and the market will take a natural turn to even out. Right, and I do see a lot of comments. I'll try to address it in one comment. I'm certainly not dismissing any of the other comments. They just seem to be repeat questions. So basically, the main question is, there's two companies, right? We have WM and we also have another company in the city of Orange, CR&R, who also provides this service. I understand that the city has a different rate structure. I'm not entirely sure if it's a subsidy or if it's just a rate structure that hasn't been renewed. But again, that's an alternative contract. It's a different service. So there is different rates involved. I can't speak to why their rates are the program. I don't work for their company, but again, this is the rates that we have been provided to process this material. Another question was about composting. So it says someone was reading in the regulation and they were seeing that we are allowed to collect and compost the manure. And the question was, why don't we do that? And that's actually what we are doing, right? So we are collecting the material. We are, I would say probably the proper terminology is processing it, either for land application or for anything that could be beneficial reuse for the environment. But the material is being processed, at least the clean material, right? We're trying to get the contamination out because contamination in the material can't be recycled. So that is exactly what this law is requiring, is that all this organic material used for beneficial reuse, land application, anything like that. So unfortunately, as I mentioned, the cost of processing or composting even this material has gone up significantly. And that's not just for manure, that's also for food waste and even green waste, especially after 2020, the green waste recycling rates went up tremendously as well. So we do see an uptick in the cost of organics recycling. Again, we're hoping as time goes on and more facilities and jobs get created for this, maybe there's an opportunity then for the market to even out. But because this program is so new, we do see very high rates right now. I do see another question. Basically, I currently do not have carts is the issue, and can I keep using my bin until I receive the carts? And in reality, yes, you absolutely, you have no other container. So we'll reach out to you. I see your comment in the chat, and if someone on the team can just reach out to privately to make sure that we assist with getting her containers as quickly as possible, because obviously you need your trash carts and you need recycling carts and a green waste cart for your other material, and that's needed ASAP. So yeah, of course, in the meantime, I understand you're using your bin for everything else, but we'll work with you directly to get your carts as quickly as possible. Another question was about, so 3-yard bins, and basically like if you're a customer with a 3-yard bin, are you changing it to a 2-yard bin? And as of right now, we are not changing anything. So currently you do not need to do anything. As we get more and more 2-yard bins in stock, we may be changing your bin to a 2-yard bin, or this is subject to availability. Right now, our main focus is to really get the contamination out of the manure, and then we'll be working with you directly if any changes need to be made to your account. But for the time being, if you've had a 3-yard bin, or I don't think too many customers, but even if you had a larger bin, I think a lot of customers have known just from the past, especially in the winter months when it rains, you don't want to fill it all the way up to the top. This material is very heavy and it's very difficult to move, and it's very difficult to lift up and service in a truck if it's filled up to the top. So that's why that 2-yard bin is used, because if you fill up a 2-yard, that's really the maximum available service that we can provide. Another question was, can we use any other hauling companies, such as CR&R? Unfortunately, no, this is a franchise agreement. So Waste WM is the contracted hauler for your area. But if you need help with right sizing, again, anything that we can do to make service level recommendations for your property, we will work with you directly, everyone here on the team. Another question was if the County of Orange approved these rates, and yes, these rates have been approved by the County of Orange. Another question was more in regard to the composting program. I think for the food waste and the green waste, because again, I know this calls primarily for manure, but this also affects residents on the food waste as well. This is a huge change for all residents in Orange County, where now food waste needs to be recycled with your green waste. So if you have a green container, you would place all your food scraps, any meat, fish, dairy products, vegetables, fruits, you name it. If it's food waste, it would go into your green waste container. Pet waste would not go into your green waste container. This is, even though pet waste is an organic material, this material cannot be composted. So that is probably the one exception of organic waste in this law that I've seen. In addition, unfortunately, plastic bags are not compostable. Even the bags that say they're compostable are currently not accepted at this time in that organic program, just because they typically do not break down at the composting rate that it needs to be broken down by. So it really is supposed to just be pure food waste and green waste. Food soiled paper is okay in that program. So if you have a food soiled paper bag, that's okay. But again, I know I didn't want to divert too much from this manure conversation, but I know everyone also is residents as well, and you probably know about the food waste recycling program, or had some questions about that. Another question is about, why couldn't we just keep the sizes at the prices that they are instead of reducing the size? Why does the size have to be reduced? Really, again, it goes back to the type of material that manure is. It's very heavy, it's very dense. Customers that have had larger bins for manure have pretty much already known not to fill up their bin to the top, otherwise there are service issues, especially in the wet months. Now, in the past, again, you might have had a 3-yard bin, you might have been using it for trash and manure at the same time, so really it wasn't as heavy as it would be as if it was only purely manure. Now that it's only purely manure and it's a very heavy organic material, that is why we have to put these size constraints on the program. And it's the same for many of our food waste programs at our commercial food restaurants and grocery stores as well. The 65-gallon is the largest size we offer for food waste because food waste is just so heavy in comparison to mixed trash or mixed recycling. And I think we answered this question already, but I'll answer it again just in case it wasn't heard. But if you're waiting for a bin or you're waiting for inventory, maybe you only have had a bin this entire time and you need carts, please contact us right away at ocrecycling@wm.com or the 657 number. We want to make sure we get you your residential carts as quickly as possible. 95-gallon is a typical standard size for our residential service, and we do have those available. We might have a couple sizes that I think we're coming in next week. So if that's the case, we'll definitely want to make sure that we get your cart deliveries on schedule and that we can follow up with you once it's delivered. In the meantime, we understand this week you have to place your trash somewhere. So of course you have your one bin, but we want to make sure moving forward, we definitely get you your residential account if you don't have one. That way you can recycle and use all the container options available to you. Another question is, WM's a large company, and why didn't we push back against this legislation? This is very expensive for the consumer. And I'm not personally involved with our Sacramento team, but you are absolutely right. WM is a large company with a lot of resources. And we do have a team up in Sacramento that is working with our legislators and trying to influence the law as much as we can. And certainly not just us, but other haulers as well. Also just other consultants certainly voiced their concerns with this change in law. Now, again, the legislation was passed. This was something that the state wanted to do to help mitigate the climate action. And as your provider, we are just now trying to come up with a program that we can provide. It does come at an increased cost. Pretty much every city that I've seen is having some type of rate increase for SB 1383. Some of them might not have had it yet, or maybe they're coming in the future years, but pretty much every city I know, we just got ours as well. We also have, my father lives in an unincorporated LA County area and just got his notification that his rates went up. So it's definitely a trend that we're seeing throughout the entire state. Another question is, so if manure is considered organic material and so is food waste and so is yard waste, why does it have to be separated? How come manure is separate from the organic green waste and food waste program? That's a great question. So even though manure is considered organic material, it is it's such a different type of organic material. It processes differently. So our green waste and food waste program, that's going to a different compost facility that is really only meant to compost green waste and food waste mixed together. Manure is treated differently. There's a lot more permitting that goes involved into any manure processing site. I know the county is also trying to initiate a manure recycling program, but they also have to get through all the permits and the requirements and pass all the tests to get that program up and running. So yeah, it is a different type of organic waste, and that's why it's a different container. And then there's another question, is there an option, for WM to relinquish this manure service? And if there's another opportunity for another company, again, unfortunately, no, this is not an option. WM is the franchise hauler for the entire area. So again, this was through a competitive RFP process where all the services and rates were compared to each other and analyzed for each area. And the county had awarded WM for this franchise. But again, if there's anything we can do to help analyze your services, work with you, this is our contact information. I know I've repeated that so many times. I just want to make sure it's really emphasized that, we don't want you to feel like you have to contact a call center and, you're not getting that personalized outreach. This is our local team. We actually are in Orange County. We can really go through your account service information with you and help make sure that you're getting a service recommendation that's appropriate for your property. Oh, this one's a little cheeky, but I do like it. What is the manure being recycled into? Mushrooms, energy, or Soylent Green? And love the reference to Soylent Green, by the way. So this is, it is processed right now. I would call it probably more of a land application compost material. I'm hoping actually to, get a little bit more information myself because it's a different facility than we've used before. And so I would love to take a tour and I see Alexandria provided you our ocrecycling@wm.com email, and we can hopefully provide more information in regard to the processing. But yes, that's my understanding. It's just processed into either a land application, a compostable material. Another question was if we can put yard waste in the manure bin, and I know we kind of addressed this already, but really yard waste is a different type of organic waste. So we have separate containers, especially if you're a resident. We do have the trash recycling and green waste cart, or I should call it green waste / food waste cart now. So that yard waste should be placed into an organics residential cart with the green lid and the green body. Okay, think. Okay, sorry, I just want to make sure I'm trying to answer as many new questions as possible, and I see there's still quite a few. So again, we're going to answer as many as we can tonight. For any that we aren't able to get to, please still email your questions to ocrecycling@wm.com. And we can still continue this conversation. I don't want you to feel that your questions were dismissed or not all gotten to. It's just I know there's a lot of questions, and unfortunately, there's only so much time for tonight. But we're going to keep going, and I'm going to keep getting to as many as we can. But again, please, if your question wasn't answered fully, or you still have more, even if you didn't ask any questions, and then tomorrow you have a new question, please still reach out. Okay, so another question is, why would we blame customers? Why would we blame customers for contamination if it was being mixed with the trash by WM with the manure truck? So again, this is not something that we know some individual customers were, maybe participating in the separation properly, but there were some routes that were identified as extremely contaminated. It was pretty much most of the pickups that we were having were just mostly trash. So unfortunately, there were instances where the trash truck would have to service a portion of a community if that was just the trend that we were seeing. And again, it was you go to the facility, you would drop it off, they would say, no way, this is contaminated, and take it back. So we did have to make some changes to the services that we were doing prior to this law. But with this new law moving forward, we would have to make sure that this is getting recycled. So now that we can focus on getting the education out to get the contamination, once we can get that contaminated material out of manure, nothing gets recycled. published. I'll try doing my best here, but okay. Another question was about can you burn manure or do anything else? Basically, it kind of goes back to, what other options do we have? Really, I think that would be more of a code enforcement issue. As much as I wish I could say, we could compost on site or, do something that, you might do with a food waste or a green waste program. Manure is very strict. There is a lot of code enforcement and municipal codes, county codes as well, in regard to how manure has to be treated, because it affects everything, right? It affects stormwater, it affects, all sorts of things. So I would confidently say no, that is not an option. But again, if you're having, issues or, there's any service recommendations that we can make to make this cost impact less significant, please work with our coordinator directly and we can analyze your services. Another question is that this is not a new state law. This law was passed in 2016 and WM did not comply. So why are we saying this is new? And actually, so the one that we, 2016, and again, this comment might have been before we talked about this, so I can understand, but that was actually a different law. That was called Assembly Bill 1826, and this pertained to commercial food generators and organics generators. So commercial businesses like restaurants or grocery stores, and it was really just for food waste and green waste. This did not require manure to be recycled. Manure, if you looked at that definition of organic material, was not included. This new state law is different, unfortunately, organic material in terms of commercial businesses anymore. So that's where we're seeing this big change. And just on the food waste side alone, that is a huge change for residents to recycle food waste. Now we're on action, even for myself. I see another question about when does this all have to be done by? It seems like we are the first company rolling it out, and how many years do we have to fully roll it out? I heard it was 2025. Is that true? So 2025, that's actually the goal. That's a statewide goal. So California has this goal to reduce the organic material going to the landfill by 75% by 2025. That's definitely a mouthful to say, but the state law went into effect January 1st, 2022, so just about a week ago now. And it was required that all cities and counties roll a program out. They have to have an ordinance in place. You name it. There's a lot of work that has to be done. Now, there are some cities that are still finalizing this program and they had to request an extension, mindful that they required, A through Z requirements somewhere else, and they are working with the state to get that program, but they are under a high amount of pressure to make sure that they have a program as soon as possible to their customers. So we do see some cities that are still rolling it out, still finalizing their programs, but fortunately the county is in full compliance. They have put this program in their RFPs for all of their haulers, so that's why we're seeing this mandatory service starting with the timeline that CalRecycle has, and that's January 1st, 2022. Who else is affected by this new mandate is another question. So are any commercial or businesses also affected or only approved by the Board of Supervisors? And if so, when was this approved? So the first question is, are any commercial businesses affected, or is this only residential? And no, this is everyone. So the biggest change is for residential because residential has never had to recycle organic like food waste or manure before. This wasn't required by law. But previously, commercial businesses did have some other laws like that Assembly Bill 1826 I was mentioning. But now, even if you were a business that maybe did not fall under the threshold of Assembly Bill 1826, you very likely now fall under the threshold with Senate Bill 1383. So even if you're a very small small business, but you have a break room and you're generating, 20 gallons of food waste a week, that business would be expected to have a food waste recycling program. So yes, this is affecting everyone, residents and businesses alike. And then I'm sorry, for the second question, was this approved by the Board of Supervisors? And yes, these were approved. This was over the summer. I don't have the exact date in my head, but I know it occurred, I want to say in June of 2021. And of course, there was a lot of action that had to be taken afterwards. Additionally, the audit that had to be conducted to maybe identify who were newer customers, and analyzing everything after that and getting approval for notifications. So another question was, does our present service contract with the County of Orange allow WM to basically increase our rates without a competitive bid? And no, it does not. So this actually did go out through a competitive bidding process amongst various haulers, and each area was awarded to the hauler that was approved by Board of Supervisors. So no, to answer your question, this is definitely would go through a competitive bidding process. There's another question. If there is basically, if you're having a heavy week, which I like that, basically, are you producing more waste? And this is in regard to trash, recycling, or even manure. Can you schedule an extra pickup? We do have those options available, but of course, because of some of our unincorporated county areas, we might not have a route available on that day. So we would ask that you contact our customer service to see if you can schedule one. But yes, we do typically offer extra pickups. There is a charge, and our customer service is happy to go over that with you. And of course, if it's a more permanent thing where you see that maybe for the next month or two, this is your busy time of the year and you just want to increase your services temporarily, you can also do that. That way you don't have to worry about scheduling it. It can just be automatic. And then when you're ready to decrease, we can also decrease, just for those seasonal changes at your property. Another question was, do you have educational materials in Spanish for our workers? And for the manure service, the only Spanish educational materials we have are currently our labels, that we have our flyers, but I think that's a great idea and something I certainly can reach out to our communications team to provide. So once that is, actually that's a great note. I'm going to take that down here. Let me get that going and see what we can do to get that translated. And then that can also be uploaded to the webpage, the home.wm.com/Orange County. No, that's a great pointer and a great tip. So thank you for providing that. Another question is, if you came in late to the presentation, is there going to be a recording available? And yes, so this meeting is being recorded and we will have this uploaded to YouTube, and we can paste that link on the home.wm.com webpage. And that will be, again, there's a helpful resources section at the bottom of the page. So basically, if you expand that helpful resources, you'll see service guides, copies of recycling flyers, the manure recycling information. And we can also post a sheet with a link to the YouTube video. That way you can easily access this video if you missed part of this presentation. There's another question about where are the compost facilities in Orange County? There's multiple facilities, so I certainly cannot speak for all of them. I know some of the landfills have some facilities at their site. They also have one in Irvine that's off of the Great Park. I think there's one in San Juan Capistrano. There are various facilities throughout Orange County. I certainly can't speak to all of them, but those are what I know. Another question was that there was not an RFP and that there was not a competitive bidding process. And I can certainly guarantee that there was. I participated in it myself and competed against other haulers, and we all submitted our best and final rates for these programs and services that are offered in each area that we bid for. So, I do apologize if you do not feel that way, but we certainly can reach out and direct you to the resources and where to find verification for that. Another question is, so I think we have some issues with maybe customers not being able to find the cart rates in the contract. I think we can probably reach out to you privately and help with showing you where those are, or getting you in touch with maybe a county representative. We know we do have organic cart rates in the agreement, so that's where these rates are coming from. Another question was which governor was actually responsible for signing this bill? And this was, a lot of people think it's Newsom, but it actually was Governor Jerry Brown. So he signed this bill before he left office. And then it went through multiple phases of readings and modifications, and it was finalized in November 2021. Sorry, I'm getting my dates a little confused. And then after that, of course, Governor Newsom would push forward the approval of that finalization and finishing up what Jerry Brown had initiated. I know there are some members who like to take this concern to their local state representative, and it's certainly welcomed if that's, you feel you want to have your voice in the legislation and the changes that are being passed. But yes, that's the background information. So another question is, what is the penalty for non-compliance? So, right now, the main thing, like I said, for WM, if we start to see that you're contaminating your trash with manure or your manure with trash, there is a potential for your container to not be serviced, because this law is extremely strict on what can and can't go into each container. All recycling has to be placed in the recycling, all trash has to be placed in the trash, all manure has to be separated, and all organic waste, like green waste and food waste, is another container. So it is very strict. The county does have an ordinance in place, so if there is a repeat violation, there may be potential fines and from that ordinance that the county passed. Another question was about if the contract can be changed at any time. And hopefully, I don't know if I understand. I mean, certainly there's changes and amendments that occur throughout the course of a contract, but as far as the language, can it just be changed? No, this would go through a formal process with the county in front of the board and for approval. So no, it can't just be changed anytime without approval, I think is how I would word that, but it certainly could be changed with approval. Another question was, does the manure get taken to the same facility as green waste? It depends. We do have different facilities, so like I said, that are utilized, and some do process green waste on site. Though I just want to make it clear, it's processed separately. So even if the green waste is processed at a facility, it's not processed together with the manure. The manure is still separately processed. It's just a different breakdown process because of the type of material it is. Another question is, what if you are struggling with this rate increase? Maybe you're on a fixed income, cannot afford increases. Again, we are empathetic and we want to help. So if there's anything we can do, I would highly encourage to please reach out to ocrecycling@wm.com or the phone number. That way we can really help look at your services and what your impacts are and how we can help change that. Again, I love the state of California. It's a beautiful state to live in. You can't beat the weather. But unfortunately, it is an expensive state, and there are some expensive legislation that is being passed. And similarly with horses, my supervisor is also a horse owner herself, and she always jokes that owning a horse is like leaving money, and unfortunately this is just another cost that's being associated with this service. So we want to be able to provide you the options that you can to maintain the lifestyle, but anything we can do to help mitigate those cost impacts, we're certainly willing to help. Another question is, and again, I do apologize, there are quite a lot of questions, so if not all of them are able to be answered, again, I apologize. Please reach out and still submit your questions to ocrecycling@wm.com. I know we're kind of past the hour mark here. I'll try to stay on for just another few minutes at least, so we can get through as many questions as possible and the presentation. And again, there's still more questions, and it looks like there's a lot. So again, we appreciate the feedback and your participation. Please continue that participation with us. We want to help you. We want to talk to you. We want to start looking at your services and make the recommendations that we think would be best for your property and to help decrease that impact. I've seen and worked with some customers in the past that didn't even know about the recycling program, didn't even have a trash account. So we can help make sure that you're set up with those services, and that if you can lower or decrease your manure service because you're throwing trash in your container currently, that's a win-win for us. We're increasing diversion, we're helping you with the program, and we can at least hopefully mitigate those cost impacts as much as possible. Okay, so I'll try to answer just a few more questions here. For any ones that we, again, do not get to, please still continue to reach out to us. I'm going to get through just a few more here, and we'll probably start to finalize our meeting shortly. Okay, so okay, so here's another question. So why would we recycle food waste and not just put it down your garbage disposal instead, and then not require a compost bin? Okay, so for this state law, and particularly with the ordinance, the organic service is mandatory. However, I know exactly what you mean. There's a lot of food products that maybe you have been putting down your garbage disposal for years, and you don't have to change that. If it's a safe product that can be put down your garbage disposal, you can certainly continue to do that. However, we also know there are products that should not be placed down your garbage disposal. It could clog your drain, damage your garbage disposal, just not good to put down your drain in general, and those products should still be placed in the organics container. So you still need that green bin for your property. It is a mandatory service. Even if you compost on home or anything like that, it is a mandatory service for all residents, but at least it's an option. So for anything that you can't put in your home composting bin or down your garbage disposal, you have that. In addition, your landscaping waste. So if you have green material that can be put in your green waste bin, that also can be used for that. Another question is, we only have a dumpster now. Because of this change, will we need to get a trash recycling and green waste service? And do you know what the cost would be? So yes, each resident really should have a residential account to make sure that they are able to recycle and participate in SB 1383 in compliance. I would ask that you reach out to us so that we can understand which area you're in and we can provide you better recommendations or what your rates would be. But yes, we do have a residential rate that we can go over with you depending on what your service needs are. Okay, and then another question is, when will fining start, since we don't have our carts available yet? And as far as I understand, there is no fining that has started yet. Again, we are rolling out this program. This is a new program. We also understand that there is education to be done to get the contamination out. So this is not something that we're going to just not service your bin right now. We know that we're trying to get the education out. We are not implementing any fines from WM, so this would probably be a question I would have for the county of when they would implement fines. I know there is an enforcement Standard 283 that counties and cities have to do, not that they want to do it, but that they have to. I'm not entirely sure when the county would implement that, if they would. But as far as, right now, the focus is to get the contamination out of the manure, set your account up for the right services that you need for your property. And then moving forward, we can make sure that, if contamination is present, you get some warnings. If it's excessive, we would let you know it might not be able to be serviced or it wasn't serviced. So hopefully that answers your question. Another question is about what is recyclable? And I know this is a whole nother meeting in itself, but one resident has noticed that it seems like WM is taking less and less recyclables in their acceptable item list. And there is, like I said, there's a lot of reasons as to why the recycling market has changed over the years. A lot of it happened back in 2018. There was a huge change in legislation again, but it was actually with our national legislation. So China used to be one of the largest acceptors of material and pretty much said they no longer wanted certain types of material from other nations. So we were then forced to come back and find alternative buyers, right, for these recyclable materials. So in the end, really, most of the recyclable materials have stayed the same. We still accept a lot. It's just there was a lot of contamination, again, that was going into the recycling, that what we would call wish cycling. People would put items just because it was made out of plastic, and it was assumed that anything made out of plastic is recyclable, which unfortunately isn't true. Usually we would recycle by shape, like bottles, jars, jugs, and tubs is kind of the little saying that I remember. If it's plastic bottle, jar, jug, or tub, it's typically recyclable. But when in doubt, throw it out. So most of the materials have stayed the same, and I know WM is proud that I think over 98% of certain mixed plastics are now recycled domestically. So, or I'm sorry, mixed fiber grades, excuse me. So that's, there's definitely outlets. It's not that recycling is dead. It's just we have to be more mindful of what we're placing in the recycling to make sure that it's actually something that's recyclable. Another question, I'm not sure if this is in regard to manure, so I do apologize. Another question was, if you are providing the smallest cart, will you also be offering a senior rate? So I just wanted to clarify, we do have a senior discount program, but this is for like residential, like regular cart service for trash recycling, green waste. Unfortunately, that senior discount, we don't have it transposed to the manure program. To be clear, but if you have any questions about the senior rate and you're resident in this area, again, you can contact us at OC Recycling at the phone number, and we'd be happy for you on those options, and if you're interested in implementing, we can help you with that. Significant impact, also during a difficult time. Unfortunately, like I said, we're frustrated. We understand this is frustrated. We're frustrated ourselves with the regulations and the timing of the regulations. So if there's, the best we can do is offer the program that's compliant with the law. However, what we can for your services, see what is needed, what's not needed, make some service level recommendations. Maybe there's a change on your property that we can identify and say, look, maybe you have 5 carts and you can go to bin service and it would help decrease your cost. We're going, we're happy to work with you in that aspect, and we just want to make sure you're reaching out to your contacts. But really, again, the point of this call was to make sure you knew who we were. Again, I know you reach out to customer service daily for your daily needs, and we're happy that you do that and they can help. But for this specific issue, this is your dedicated team that's going to help. So, I have, our coordinator, Dwanda Rolls, on the call, and she's already spoken with many of you, and she's ready to assist you. So please reach out to us. Okay. Another question. I do apologize. Someone did let me know that maybe my internet went out for a little bit. I apologize if there was any lag at all. I know during this pandemic, we've all been working a little bit remotely and struggling with some connections, but hopefully that was just for a moment and it didn't distract the meeting too much. Okay. Um, let's see. Sorry, there's another question is if there's an opportunity to tour the recycling plant. Someone mentioned that they actually visited a recycling plant over in Irvine some years back, and they would like to see it again. And we do actually, obviously right now, unfortunately, due to the pandemic, those public tours have been postponed, so we're not able to give public tours. But if you are interested in doing it in the future, and hopefully, hopefully we're in a better state where this is over and no more COVID-19, you can definitely reach out and OC Recycling at WM.com, and we'd be happy to set something up. We do group tours as well, so if you and your neighbors would be interested in doing it together, yeah, we absolutely would be happy to do one for you. It's just unfortunately right now these have been postponed in order to help keep our workers safe during the pandemic. Another question was, does it cost any money to have the manure carts removed and to replace with a bin? So basically, is there a cost for the exchange? And no, there is no cost. So if you want to convert to a bin and you're currently a cart customer, you would not receive a charge to remove those containers and to be delivered the new container. It's a great question. And again, there's still more, and I'm almost through, so hopefully we're getting here. There's another question. Oh, I'm sorry, I must have missed this one. Can we please have the name of the legislators? So basically our local legislators. And I don't have a list for each area. It does vary, but this is public information. So if you're still on the call, we could definitely, if you want to reach out to the OC Recycling at WM.com, and let us know what area you're in, and we can further investigate who's your local legislator and their contact information. Okay, and there's another question about how long is the contract with WM. So this is a recently implemented contract, started this last year in 2021. So I believe, and hopefully I will correct myself if I'm wrong, but it's a 10-year agreement. So I believe by 2031 is the expiration. I need to fact check myself though, just to make sure. I sometimes get my dates mixed up, so I want to make sure that that's accurate. And again, if you want to confirm or follow up with OC Recycling at WM.com, happy to provide that that confirmation. But from my memory, that's what it is. There's another question asking if the rates were going to be renegotiated. From my understanding, no, this is something that's been finalized, and these are the current rates that are available. But should circumstances change in the future, new programs be rolled out, different alternatives be available, of course that would be up to renegotiation. So as of right now, these are the final rates, but should there ever be to the agreement, that would be subject to final approval by the county. Another question is, do other animals like manure, besides like horses, manure, qualify for this program? And yes, I do know we have other animal animal waste related products going in there. As far as I understand, those are acceptable, but if should those be changed, we could certainly clarify that with you directly. Okay, I think we got through that. So again, I'm going ahead and close the chat now due to timing. I know if there's any questions, I'm sure there certainly is, and again, even if there's not questions and you just want help and you say, okay, I have this on my property right now, this is too expensive, is there anything you can do? This is the contact information to reach out to. Or even if you just have any questions that pop up later of, you know, can this go into the bin? Can this not go into the bin? And having, you know, just questions from my staff, we're happy to help. So we understand this is a really frustrating change. It's different. It's strange. And again, I do apologize. This platform, you know, we're in this COVID-19 world and we weren't able to meet in person, but this is our direct contact information to everyone here on our local team. So if you reach out, we might be, you know, receiving a lot of inquiries in the beginning. So we do ask for your patience, but we are reaching out and responding to everyone as quickly as possible to set up meetings and to go over your services and account information. But this is who to contact. So thank you again so much for joining us tonight, listening, asking your questions, interacting with us. Please continue to do so. Again, the cart increases are not going into effect till March. Now is the time, like I said, to please look at your service level, see what is really needed, what is not needed. If it's something that's being, you know, used just to move material around on your property, but it's not really being serviced or needs to be serviced, let's talk about it. Let's remove it. Let's make those changes. So anything we can do to help, you know, we are here for you. And in the meantime, please stay safe. I know this surge is really spreading crazy. Myself have been affected, my family, and I know many colleagues and friends that have been affected. So in the meantime, stay healthy, stay safe. Yeah, that's really all we can do. If anything else, reach out to us. You know how to reach us. And thank you so much. We hope you have a good evening, and you know we do look forward to working with you over the next many years, and definitely during the next few months. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you.